So today I'm going to be teaching you how to practice music. First, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit. So my name is Katie, and I'm going to be the percussion captain in band this year. So that means I am part of PIT, and I play violin in the orchestra, and I also play a little bit of clarinet too. And I'm also in theater and ASB, and I'm a junior. Okay, so now into the main subject matter about how to practice music. So I'd say the first thing I'd say is you want to enjoy practicing. It shouldn't feel like a chore. You should want to do it, because I find that I learn the best when I'm enjoying something, because I find I absorb it better into my brain. You don't want to practice for too short of a time, because then you don't learn anything. But also, it's really important, don't practice for too long. Like, for me, I'd say an hour for one instrument at a time is the most I can go, because then you become tired, your muscles start, not deteriorating, but they get tired, and it becomes counterproductive. So you want to make sure that you have a good balance so that you're learning, but not so much that you're overexerting yourself. Okay, so the first thing you have to do when practicing, I know it's a pain, everyone hates it, but you have to tune your instrument. Obviously, it doesn't matter as much for percussion, but for winds, strings especially, you have to do it, because if you don't, then your ears don't get trained as well as they would if your instrument was in tune, and you won't be able to recognize if you're in tune when you're actually performing. So that's part of practicing too, training your ear. So I've got my violin here. Just want to make sure it's all in tune. That way you'll be able to recognize when you're performing if the pitch is off or not. Next step to practicing is you've got to warm up. I know this is the boring part, you want to get to the fun music, play what you want to, but you got to warm your fingers up. For winds, warm up like your lungs. So the best way to warm up, definitely for strings it would be like open strings, but for winds, brass, it would be, I'd say, long tones, scales. Scales for any instrument is important, except drum line. And for percussion, I would do rhythm exercises, and for pit, scales are important. You just want to build up muscle memory where all the notes are, and also you want to warm up your hands, warm up your lungs for when you're about to play the harder pieces. Okay, so now that you've warmed up, you're ready to start on the pieces that you need to practice. What I like to do is to run through the song once, just so I can pinpoint what parts I need to practice, what parts I am good on and don't need as much practice. One big mistake that a lot of people do when they practice is they just keep running through the song over and over, playing the whole thing. That doesn't really help you, because then you focus on the whole thing, and you don't get to focus on the parts that especially need help. So you just don't really improve, you just kind of keep playing it over and over again. One thing I was taught is that the phrases that you're having trouble with, you want to practice them until you can play the phrase at least 3 times perfectly, so you know that you can get it consistently. Some might even say 10. One thing that is especially important to know that a lot of people forget about is, especially in ensemble playing, you want to remember where your rests are, how your music connects to the rest of the group, so that when you go onto the field to practice with everyone, you're not lost and you know where your music fits in with everything. And also that way, if you make a mistake, you know where to jump back in. And finally, at the end of a practice session, you've got to remember to put your instrument away and keep it safe. So for violin, I would unwind my bow, put it in my case. For clarinet, I would disassemble it, put my reed back in its case to make sure everything is organized and secure. If I was doing xylophone, let's say, I would make sure the mallets are in a place that I'll remember where they are, and I covered it up. So you want to make sure that everything is safe and sound for the next time you practice or perform. Those are the basics of practicing. Obviously, practicing is different for everyone. Everyone thinks differently. So I'd say use this as a guideline, figure out what works for you. So a quick recap of what we talked about is you gotta tune your instrument, warm up, practice phrases that are especially difficult. Don't run through the whole piece. That's counterproductive. Know how your music fits in with the rest of the music, if it's not a solo piece. And then always remember to put your instrument away and keep it safe when you're not practicing. So yeah, those are the basics of practicing. I hope you all learned something from this, and hope to see you guys soon on the field.